I came across a question the other day talking about the evolution of quality assurance. It was on the tech Q&A show that I do on Tuesday night, so you definitely want to tune into that. We answer a lot of different tech-related questions, sometimes career-related questions, all that good stuff, right? But I came across a question that was asking about what has been the evolution of quality assurance, and I wanted to actually dedicate a video to talking about that. I gave an answer on the show but we only have like 5-ish minutes per question, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth in this, right? And the reason that I want to go in depth in this is because of what I see a lot of things happening in the software development industry, whether it's for QA, whether it's for software engineering, stuff like that, which it bothers me, to be honest with you, right? And I wanted to go back and take a historical look at QA from at least from when I got into it. So with that being said, I just want to welcome everyone to another episode of Candid Conversations, hosted by your shooty Tickle Drop, where we're engineers win. In this episode of Candid Conversations, I want to talk to you guys about the evolution of QA, some things that I've been seeing. I've only been in quality assurance since 2009, but QA goes back since the beginning of time, to be honest with you. Because what is QA? QA is it's simply testing to make sure that the product that you're putting out there actually works the way that it's intended to work. And if if somebody tries to use it in a way that it's not intended to work, there are some safety measures in place to protect from catastrophe from happening, right? So if you're not familiar with me yet, I am Teko Trough, as I said. I've been in QA since 2009, right? I've been officially since 2009. But I've been tinkering with stuff since I was a child. I've been trying to fix things. I've been swapping out video cards and memory and hard drives as a child, just so that I can, I was just intrigued by technology and by computers. Okay, I remember one of my earliest memories of working on technology was installing, I think it was Windows 95 or maybe Windows 3.1 with floppy disks. I would take the disk out of the computer. It would say, all right, insert the next disk. I put it in, insert the next disk. I probably did that like maybe once every weekend or something like that, because I was always messing up the computer and then reinstalling Windows and stuff like that. And then I remember Windows 95 came out. We had a CD for it, whatever. But as far as it goes for QA, right, the evolution, I said that QA has been with us since the beginning of time. It's just QA spans across different industries. Do you ever remember opening up a package and it said inspected by QE or QI, quality inspector, and they have a number associated with them? I remember there was a show of, what was the name of that show on Nickelodeon, where it was these two brothers, not my brother and me, but Pete and Pete. It was Pete and Pete, where I think the younger one became obsessed with a quality inspector. He had like a little, like, he would always get the same tag from the same quality inspector, and he wanted to go find out who this quality inspector was.
Mom, Dad, this is a friend of mine, Inspector 34.
Inspector 34, yeah. And I am
Don Wrigley, 37 stout, down from 38.
So, like I said, QA has been with us for a very, very long time. Now, as we started getting more into software development, stuff like that, it started becoming more and more prominent. And when I got into QA back in 2009, a very, very big and well-known model, which still exists to this day to a certain extent, in certain industries, not in many industries anymore, right? But it was the waterfall model. Basically, what the waterfall model would do is that you'd get all the requirements written, you'd get and it gets passed on to the developers. Developers would build everything, right? And then once all the development is done, it gets dropped on QA. So, all right, this is what needs to be tested. These are the requirements. So now you have to write all your test cases, all that type of stuff. You have to go through your test plan, your test sets, and you have to execute. It is a long cycle. It would take you about maybe a year or 2 years to build software. However, and to me that was the very beginning. And at that point, there was a lot of talk about the black box testing, the white box testing, the smoke testing, the regression testing, and all the different type of testing that exists, right? And honestly, like, it was very, very helpful at that time to have a good understanding of all this type of testing. I remember like it was yesterday, learning, because for me, I came from a web development background. I did not have a specific testing background, but I was able to learn it, and just being very, very exploratory, I was able to figure a lot of things out, right? But one thing I did not like was doing the same thing over and over and over again. That drives me crazy when I have to do the same thing over and over and over. So as the company that I was working at was growing with more and more clients and more customers, more complex websites that we have to deal with, we ended up hiring a QA automation person. And that's how I ended up getting more into the realm of automation and more into the depth of QA. So around 2011, I got into automation. Automation was already alive and well. Selenium was probably already existing at that time, but I didn't know about it. I was very, very new and green to automation. I was using a software called Quick Test Professional, which is now called Unified Functional Testing. Very, very expensive licenses. I did not like that software at all, but it's what was recommended to us. That's what was given to us because the person who was coming in to start automating for us, that's what they knew. They were not very familiar with Selenium from my understanding. So as time went on, and I got into doing the automation testing because we needed another person, and then that person ended up leaving, the original person, then I pretty much took it on until we got to the needing to automate mobile websites, right? Mobile applications. And the thing with that is I didn't know anything about Selenium. I just had to figure out so many different things, right? And throughout that whole time, we're still going through the waterfall process for the way that our company worked. And I'm hearing about Agile, but I don't know what it is. I'm hearing about API testing. I don't know what it is. So many different changes are happening, right? So you're like, and everywhere that you look at, they're telling you about, all the different type of testing, the black box testing, the regression testing, the white box testing, the gray testing, and you hear about it over and over and over again, right? The reason I bring out those type of testing is because you go to a boot camp and they tell you all, like, these people who are going into these boot camps, they're memorizing this stuff, which is fine to memorize it, right? But when you go to apply for a job, you're not going to be getting a final exam on what does it mean to be a QA. You're going to be getting practical questions on how do you actually do the damn job, right? And I see that's the biggest obstacle that people who are trying to get in this field are dealing with, where like the education that they're getting is very, very, for lack of a better term, primitive. They're getting a lot of primitive education, and they try to add that primitive education to testing, to quality assurance. And the same thing happens for software development. The same thing happens for DevOps, being taught these primitive principles. And now you're being pushed out into the world to, like, okay, go apply for 1,000 jobs and you should be able to get a job. And honestly, it's a very, very low chance of happening. Somebody that I actually witnessed get a job, who graduated from a local boot camp. They worked tirelessly. After the boot camp was done, they worked tirelessly. They set up a schedule. They said, okay, I'm going to work on this. They created videos to market themselves. And I think that played a big role in them getting the job. And in the job that they got, they weren't even the first pick. They were the backup option. And now I know some people, they get very, very upset because they're the backup option, but this person was grateful. They say, oh, I'll definitely take the job. And now they are thriving. They are absolutely thriving on the job that they took. To the point where it was a 5-day-a-week in-office job. The company said, we love you so much that you can go and work remotely because you have some family things that you're working on. You can go and work remotely from a different state. But for me, it's like, it's always about proving yourself. And I'll tell you this. When I spoke to that person, right, I asked them, so based on what you learned in the boot camp and the work that you're actually doing, how much are they similar? She's like, they told me, like, it is night and day. I was not ready, but they took a chance on me, and them taking a chance was, they saw something in her, but it was also being kind, because they could. You have to understand, right? When these jobs are being offered, there's many different criteria that are going into it, right? So the salary that they're going to be paying you, the level of experience, they see, like, are you a good fit for the team? Your willingness to learn. All these different criteria are being analyzed by different people, right? By the hiring manager, by the in the technical interview, by the team that you're going to be working with. They're analyzing all of this stuff. So, and they even said, we're actually going to go with this person, right? Because they have more experience. When that person ended up turning the job down, they said, okay, we're going to go with you. And I'm pretty sure this is probably what happened, right? The amount of money that they offered the person with more experience was more than the money that was offered to them. But that's only fair because you have zero experience. It's a bootcamp graduate where you don't even really work on real applications. You're working on fake applications and you expect the world. So now if we fast forward to like when I was working in QA in 2016, that was pretty much my first introduction to like the CI/CD pipeline, tools like Jenkins, tools like Docker, tools like Rancher, things of that nature, right? And writing more robust automation code, creating my own frameworks. all those things, those were like kind of new to me in 2016, but I had to figure it out. And I was like the only one inside of the company that I was working for. They never had automation before, but they hired me. And I just had to take off from there. Right. And then not to mention, like, I had never used Postman before either at that time. In 2016 was my first time really using Postman, doing API tests, and then within a month of starting to use Postman, I'm like, there is no chance in hell that I'm going to be doing this manually. How do I automate this? And from there, I was able to automate. I could pretty much. I had ended up automating 1,000 different variations of an API test, and it ran in like 5 minutes. Very, very comprehensive testing, and as soon as something went wrong, was able to catch it and report it to the developers to get that fixed. So for me, at least in 2009, started out very, very manual. In 2011, started using automated testing through a very, very heavy and clunky software. 2014, that's when I started having a need to do mobile testing, and I discovered that I could use mobile web testing. I could use Chrome, Selenium WebDriver, and manipulate the user agent for Chrome to mimic the user agent of an iPhone or a Android device and stuff like that, and set the dimensions of the phone at that size as well. So then by then 2015, the entire company is fully moved over to Selenium WebDriver, where we're saving a lot of money because that software that we're using was about $5,000 to $10,000 per license. We had 3 licenses, right? So we reduced that cost, and from there, it's like automation testing started to become a much bigger thing, at least in my realm, right? Because the next company I went to, they hired me because of my automation skills, and because they didn't have any automation at that. So if we continue, right, and I'm going to show you what the problem is from what I see, right? But if we continue to today, honestly, now it's like everything in the quality assurance industry and even in the overall software development industry is very, very automation based, right? From our CI/CD pipelines, from our infrastructure code, for like we're using Terraform, we're using in our CI/CD pipeline GitHub Actions, we're using Jenkins, we're using TeamCity. There's Octopus, from my understanding. So many different softwares to optimize the process, right? And back in 2016, I also did this, right? We had development environments where the software developers they would merge the code, they would and would pull in the code, working on branches and stuff like that. We would have to use Docker to start up the application. And part of the problem that and not a problem, but like the thing that helped me a lot was me learning how to test locally. That was a huge thing, and I had to teach the other QA people who were on the team as well. Like, all right, we need to test this stuff locally because we can test different branches locally, but when we push it to the cloud, only one branch is allowed on it's different nowadays, right? But only one branch is going to be living on DevOps with the changes, and that we're going to test. So in the develop branch. So what ended up happening is I'm showing them how to test it locally. I'm learning myself how to test it locally. I'm getting the data, like how to connect to the database or setting up the database locally, all that good stuff. So this is all within the realm of QA as well. And now in today's day and age, I'm doing the deployments for our application as a QA engineer, a senior QA engineer, doing the deployments. I am setting up our own automation tests in our build tools. I'm responsible for all the automation, making sure that we have the right coverage for the right tests at the right time. I am also always innovating, like seeing, okay, how can we better test this stuff in the cloud? Setting up cloud environments, setting up reporting and stuff like that. A lot of different things are happening in QA. I don't think about the different type of test. Nobody asks me about black box testing. Nobody asks me about white box testing. If they're asking you about those stuff in interviews, then that's because they might be a bit old school and primitive in their stuff. For the interviews when I do mock interviews, I am trying to see what the person knows. I don't care if they can regurgitate things about boundary testing and regurgitate things about black box, white box, because at the end of the day, those are just theories that a lot of people have not put actual practice behind it. For me, I like to I like to, when I'm coaching somebody, right, I like to make sure that they're actually building the practical skills, and then we'll fluff it up with the right terminology, right? So here's what I see that is a big miss for people who are trying to get into QA today, based on a lot of these bootcamps that they're taking. They they will learn all the very basics of manual testing, and that's it, right? And they'll pay an egregious amount of money to learn how to do manual testing, which manual testing is useful, but it is in a way going out of like, it's not what people are looking for today, right? They want you to be able to manual test, but it can't just be a manual test. You can't just be a manual tester. You need to be able to do automation. You need to be able to how to assess risks. You need to be an advocate for why quality is important to the customer. You know, so that's why I see a lot of these places where people get education from is very lacking. They'll charge you an egregious amount of money just for manual testing, where you're not going to get a job, and they tell you you're going to get a job, or a very high paying job, and then now you go out into the market, you can't even get one interview, and it sucks. I agree, it sucks. So then they say, well, what about if you go do automation and you pay another double the amount that you paid for the manual testing to learn how to do automation, learn how to code and stuff like that. But now you're still unprepared because they're, like, everything that they're teaching you to how to work on, it's not real. It is not real. That's why whenever I'm trying to have somebody build experience, I'm like, all right, how can we make this as real as possible? So like when I'm running my coaching group, we have our daily stand-ups, we have our sprint reviews, we have our sprint retrospective, and we have our sprint planning, right? And then we run 2-week sprints. We meet up every other week, and we decide what we need, the next thing that we need to work on. All right. So, and this is primarily, I do this primarily for QA. And what I see is there is a lack in understanding of what does it take to be a QA in 2025. I think one of the biggest things to be a QA in 25 is not aside from like the critical thinking skills, is that you need to be able to catch up on these new softwares and new concepts, right? So I was training somebody last year, and they said, oh, I took this boot camp, but I don't know if I learned enough. I said, well, okay, do you know how to do this? No. Do you know how to do that? No. Do you know how to do this? No. Then you're not ready to be a QA person. And what was the first thing I had them learn? You have to learn Docker, because one of the most important things you're going to be doing is being able to start the application running locally on your own machine, so that you can have so that you can test it right there in front of you and see what's right, see what's wrong. And that's okay. You're also gonna have to learn Git and GitHub. You know, and this is just for you to be able to get up and running. You're gonna have to purchase the course so that because a lot of times the same thing that they're teaching you inside of these boot camps, you can learn on your own for $10-$20, right? And then I'll tell you the story. Right? I had somebody, a relative, who told me that they're thinking about going to a bootcamp for software engineering. And I said, well, you know, you could just take this course because they take this course where it's going to be like $20 and you're going to learn all the things you're going to learn inside the bootcamp. Oh, but in the bootcamp I get a mentor and I have a time frame, I have an accountability partner, right? They wasted a lot of somebody else's money. Going through this bootcamp, which they don't even use today. The only reason that they did it was to get a signature on their email that says that they're a software engineer. Where they couldn't do a hello world statement if their life depended on it, right? So that's why I'm like the evolution of software development, of QA and stuff like that. It used to be very slow and very primitive. Now it is moving at a lot faster pace. And the things that they're teaching you, the things that worked yesterday, that you still need the idea and the concept today to make it work. However, there is a whole lot more that's required in order to be a software tester, a software engineer, all that stuff, right? Like and now you'll find some companies that they'll take a manual tester here and there, right? But it is far few and in between that you're gonna find that. So it is absolutely important and imperative that you find the right coaching and the right resources so that, like I said, I put like on day one I said, oh, like this is what you learned. All right, cool. You need to go and start learning Docker, start learning automation, start learning Python, right? And by doing those things, within less than 3 months, they got an internship, and then once the internship was over, they got a job at that company, right? So my point is that you have to be more like better informed, because the tools that I use on a daily basis, I expect even at an entry level to have a certain amount of knowledge of that tool. All right. And I think you're doing yourself a very, very big disservice if you don't do any research and just go back into learning like these very, very basic concepts that no one even really talks about them anymore. Like you're learning the expectation. And if that's the expectation that you're learning, and now you expect me to give you a job because you know how to do the very, very bare minimum, then I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. You need to be able to keep up with the trends. You need to know about the libraries, the packages, things like that, how to do certain things. You don't have to be an expert in those, but you have to, like, you cannot stay stagnant with the old information. And for me, from what I see, a lot of people who are making content and who are doing a lot of what these bootcamps are teaching is very, very old and outdated stuff. And that's why when I start working with somebody, I'm like, okay, I need you to do this. They're like, what? I have never seen this before in my life, right? So that is my message to you. You need to evolve with the times. You need to see where QA is actually at. You need to get the right coaching and the right push so that you do not become complacent and lazy, because then you're just gonna get passed on by, right? You're gonna get passed on by. So there we have it. I'm gonna end it with that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Candid Conversations. Do me a favor, on your way out, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell every time we go live and drop new content. As well, go to check out the link that's in the description for my cousin's survey. She suffered a traumatic brain injury last year in a biking accident, and she is collecting data to help people who have suffered from a traumatic brain injury, TBI, with helping them how to deal with it, and the family and friends of those who have suffered from a TBI to also know how to help them, how to handle them, because it is not easy whatsoever. Okay. And if you haven't noticed already, go to techcoachdrive.dev, sign up for an account today where you can get access to the Tech Coach Drive Patreon. And we are doing great things in there. We had a meetup just the other day or just 2 days ago, on Python, where I was able to offer some Python assistance, for like wherever, if you're stuck on there. I have office hours every now and then. I think I'm probably gonna keep a schedule of every 2 weeks to do office hours where people can, join in, ask me whatever. Any Patreon member can join in and ask me any questions that they have in the Discord, and we will go from there. All right. Anything else before we get out of here? I think that is about it. Tune in tomorrow night for our tech Q&A. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them for you. But with that being said, we're going to get out of here. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Monday. Tech Coach Ralph, we are out.
Fell from the clouds, felt the crash. High horse bucked me off the path. Smitten, lost, can't find my way. Below rock bottom, here I'll stay. I was riding, up on that horse. Thought I had it all, no doubts, no remorse. Fell hard, right down below. Lower than rock bottom, where dreams don't go. Where do I go from here? Can't see through the fear. I'm lost, I'm scared, tangled up. I'm lost, trying to find my look. Lost in the shadows, can't find the light. Wandering aimless through endless night. Should've been straight, coulda, but I took the curve. Now I'm stuck in this mess with nerve. Broken wings, shattered dreams, echoes of laughter. Now just screams, trying to climb back up the wall. But every step, it's a harder fall. Once high up in the sky so blue, now the ground's the only view. Regrets a heavy chain around my feet, dragging me down into this defeat. I look for answers in the dark, hoping to kindle a single spark, just a spark. But all I find is the cold and the pain, circling around like a never-ending chain. Gotta find a way to break free from this. Reclaim the throne I start to miss. Right now just lost in despair, grasping for hope. It's nowhere. Where do I go from here? I can't see through the fear. I'm lost, I'm scared, tangled up. I'm lost, trying to find my luck. Tired eyes looking for fractured heart, cracked by time. Should have been straight, paid my dues. Now I'm haunted by the blues.